Hello and welcome to Reportage with Daanish Bin Nabi. There has been an important political development in the Middle East, and that is the recognition of State of Israel. There are also reports that some of the Muslim countries are pressurizing other West Asian Muslim countries to recognize the Jewish state. To understand these developments, I am today joined by the senior political expert of Middle East, Mr. Arthur Blok. Mr. Blok, warm welcome to you.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Blok. Kindly talk us through why suddenly, all of a sudden, that some of the Muslim countries have started to recognize the state of Israel. Talk us through actually how back channels have worked in making it possible.
Well, it is a very remarkable phenomenon what has happened in the past, let's say, weeks and months. I've been thinking about the question, of course, in the past 24 hours. Why did they sign peace treaties all of a sudden? Well, the thing is, the countries that signed, like the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, they never have any history of war with the Israelis. So it was actually quite an easy exercise. I don't know if they were tempted by the United States or they were, I don't know what exactly happened, but in their perspective, it is a benefit because they never had war. They don't have a history of a clash, and they are in a, let's say, difficult economic situation due what happened to COVID. So this might as well give their economy a new impulse in doing trade with the Israelis. Now, and there's a lot of countries that are less happy with it, but...
Are you telling me that UAE and Bahrain do not have a good economy? That's the reason, economy being the one of the reasons?
No, listen, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because of what happened to COVID this year, the economy has gone down everywhere. Business has gone down with the Arab world, with the Western world. So in a difficult economic time, signing a peace treaty with a country can give you your economy a small boost, doing trade, opening offices, all things that were not possible before. For example, I'll give you an example. In the UAE, you could not call Israel. All of a sudden, when they signed the peace deal, the next day you could call. And all of a sudden, you read in a newspaper, companies are welcome to do business. We're going to start a direct flight to Tel Aviv. I mean, everything happened very, very, very rapidly. Now you're saying, okay, why would they do that? I think the mantra here is why not?
But then we have seen the recession in 2008 as well. They did not do it back then. Why now?
Correct. I think there has been a push from the American administration of Trump. I think he wanted to score in his last days of his presidency to say, look, guys, I am let's say in his words, a great president. I'm the best. I'm fantastic. I even made peace between some Arab states and Israel. So I think that's behind it as well. It's a personal prestige of president. And it's the first time that a president of the United States puts an effort in something like this. On the other hand, why not? Why stay in a state of war? Or let's say war. Why in a state of not talking together, not doing business?
Sorry, your voice is
very bad. Can you repeat it again?
Yeah. Let me repeat it. Is Benjamin Netanyahu in bit of a hurry? Before Trump leaves White House, he is trying to do it as much quickly as possible.
Well, you could argue that. I really don't know if he's in a hurry or not, but the guy has been under fire in the home front as well. So he could use a success. Same with Trump. He was being criticized on all levels of society. And things like this distract people's attention from what's really going on. Same for the US, for Israelis. I'm not really aware of Israeli society, what's playing around.
Yes. Let me repeat the question.
I was saying,
yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I was saying, if you look at both Trump and Netanyahu, they were both, let's say, under fire at the home front. They were being criticized. In the case of Netanyahu, there were lawsuits against him for corruption. Trump, I all know that Trump has been under fire since the moment he has become the president of the United States. And this was a good way of showing, look, we are also doing good stuff. Look what we're now doing. We're making peace. We did the unexpected. We did the thing that nobody even thought was possible. And now we have peace. And it's not going to stay with that. I assure you that in the coming years, Oman will sign a peace treaty similar. The Saudis will probably do the same, because this is the GCC. I mean, usually what they do, if one does it, all the other ones do it as well. So I think this is going to be a sign for what's going to happen in the coming years.
But Biden is now coming up. How do you view his administration dealing with the Middle East, more especially with the state of Israel?
Listen, this is a very hypothetical question, of course. I do not know what the Biden administration is going to do. But what I do know is, if you look at under the years of Obama, he was the worst president for the region. Nothing really happened here. Everything was on hold. If Biden is going to be the same as his predecessor, though, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but there's now such a positive vibe going through the region, like positive winds of signing peace treaties. I'm sure that Biden will continue this positive, let's say, modus operandi. Why not? Why would he put the parties back against each other? I don't see that happening. I think he will continue on the same path, because even though Trump is not a very popular president for many, this is something that he'll probably get praise for later on.
My question is Saudi administration, by doing such stunts, trying to tell their people that we have to recognize Israel by such sermons?
Well, listen,
it has been called as the normalization sermon.
Well, Saudi Arabia is a totally different country than the United Arab Emirates. I mean, it's a huge country, many people, a lot of variation between rich people, middle class, and poor people. Now, for the past decennia, Israel has been profiled as an enemy. Now, you cannot all of a sudden, from one day to the other, say, listen, our enemy is now our friend. But it could be, might as well, the first sign of a normalization in the relation between the two nations. I mean, how do you reach many people through a sermon? So it might as well be a first sign of saying, look, this is what's happening around us. This is how we see it, the new government. This is how we, as a new regime, let's say, see the issue. Please be aware, people, that things are going to change. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the case, but this is how it looks to me. Once things are said in the sermon, I'm sure there's always a political motivation behind that. If you look at the past, similar issues. So I think it's the first sign of saying, look, this is what's happening. This is the direction we're going to go.
Talk us a bit through about MBS, how important he is for the Western powers, for the state of Israel, for the recognition of the state of Israel. How is he playing out at his home and with his neighbors?
He is a very, let's say, a progressive individual. He's a modernizer. He's the one who did revolutionary things in a very short time frame in Saudi Arabia. You look at the modernization, what has happened. Many would have not even thought it was possible in such a short period. So he is a modern man who has inherited, let's say, an old-fashioned country that needs to be modernized in his perspective. He has been studied in the West. He has shown to the West that, this is who I am. This is what I want to do with the country. This is the direction we're going to. They opened up for tourists. Even Western tourists can now go, take a visa upon arrival, and go look in all things that nobody would have ever expected that was possible in the past. Now, this guy is a visionary. He has a vision for a more modern Saudi Arabia. So I'm sure that, if you look at what he's going to do, I'm sure that he has a plan for putting Saudi on a different way on the map. So I expect after the Omani, after Bahrain and the UAE Emiratis signed the deal, I expect him to do the same, because I think this is totally in line with what he has been doing in the past, let's say, 2-3 years.
But reportedly, Saudi king is against the deal. Until he is there, MBS is not going to sign it.
Well, I really cannot answer that question, because it still happens if the king is with it or not. But in the end, he's going to be the boss. And it can also be strategy. saying now we are against it. Maybe they have something that they want to reach. A negotiation or signing a peace deal with a country is always a game of two states. It's like you take some or you lose some. So it might as well be, let's see, an attitude at the moment to reach something else. I don't know exactly what their negotiators want, but I'm sure that it's being discussed thoroughly.
But Muslims in many countries do not view MBS as a leader. Do not rather take him as a leader.
What do you mean by that? Well, listen, I don't think he has to be recognized by Muslims in other countries as being their leader or not. He is the leader of Saudi Arabia, and he's focusing on what's good for his country. So I'm sure that if it's good in the interest of Saudi Arabia to sign a similar deal like the Emiratis did, I'm sure he will do it, and I'm sure he will convince the people that this is the right decision.
But from Muslim perspective, from Muslim world's perspective, having any deal with Israel doesn't augur well, because unless and until the Palestinian issue doesn't get resolved, any deal with the Israel seems to be a betrayal.
Well, listen, personally, I do not agree with that, because the Palestinian issue is, of course, something that has to be resolved. I'm originally from Lebanon, so this is an issue that has had a huge impact on Lebanese society. But on the other hand, it should not prevent other nations from signing a deal, because I think if you are in a state of peace with a country like Israel, I think you can reach more than if you are on non-speaking terms together. Now, I know there's a lot of emotion involved, and I know that this is a very sensitive issue, but I'm personally with signing peace deals. I'm personally with a more diplomatic approach instead of let's say, aggressive approach. I think you reach more when you sit on a table and talk to each other than if you talk about each other.
But how do you address the Palestinian problem?
Yeah, it's something that has to be resolved. But there have been many attempts in the past, and there's also a part of the Palestinians. They had some deals in the past. I remember the last deal that Arafat was able to sign. He did not do that. So there's also something to say that these people are kept in a state of suffering just because it is as a political tool. Now, I think it's terrible what's happening over there. I mean, let's not have any misunderstanding there. But I think signing peace, what the Emiratis did, what the Bahrainis did, I think this is the only way forward. Sitting on the table,
but
discussing with each other.
Mr. Blok, let me intervene a bit. Let me intervene a bit. Illegal settlements and peace talks cannot go together.
Well, of course not. But
you have to start somewhere.
But first, at least Israel has to start from somewhere. They have to stop the illegal settlement first. Then only we can talk of peace now.
But if we say this, we're going to start in a whole different kind of interview and discussion. I mean, I do agree with you that everything that's illegal is illegal. That should stop. I mean, but I think the way to stop is to sit on the table, look each other in the eyes, and say, "Listen, what has been happening in the past cannot continue. This has to stop. This has to be reversed. Yeah, this has to be compensated with financially, and because we don't forget, there's many Palestinian refugees living in Lebanon and in Jordan and in Syria as well. So this issues have to be resolved on a regional level now, and I think it's better if the Arab states around, and don't forget that the Jordanians and Egyptians also have a peace deal with the Israelis. So let's not sound like it's something that's out of the ordinary that has happened. There's other countries that have peace treaties with them, and they've been doing fine. Nobody has been criticizing them for that. So let's now get to a situation, I'm talking also about Lebanon and Syria, where we all sit on a table on a regional level and say, this is the issues that have been going on for 50, 60, 70 years now. It has to stop. If you want us to normalize relations with you, we have to deal with it seriously. Now, we cannot keep on building illegally buildings on people's land. We cannot intimidate people. We cannot tell people you have no right for a normal life. But I think the way to start with that is peace. Sit on the table, look each other in the eyes. That's the only way of making a real deal.
Mr. Blok, there has been much talked about this secret meeting between MBS, Israeli Prime Minister, and the Mossad chief in the city of Neom. Has it happened?
I have no idea. I've read the same things as you, so I really cannot say anything about that. Usually where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So maybe they did. Guess they did. But I would not know anything about that.
Fine, Mr. Blok. Let's come to Pakistan now. Pakistan being a very important Muslim country, the only nuclear power in the Muslim world, right? Do you think that in coming days they are going to recognize Israel?
Well, I've been thinking about that in the past days. Well, they might as well. They could. I don't. Of course, there's always the, let's say, the popular. Let's say I don't know if the people would accept that easily. It's the same stories like in Saudi Arabia. Let's rephrase it like that. So there's a lot of things that need to happen if a government would do that. But I think, but if you define Pakistan, it has always been a nation that is even it's a Muslim nation, but has been progressive as well. Has always been a country that knows how to sign deals with the West and knows how to speak the language of the West, let's say. So I'm sure that if all the countries around them would have a deal like that, I don't think that the Pakistanis will say, listen, we're not going to do that. We want to stay in a state of crisis with each other. I'm sure they will sit and talk. If they will make a deal, I don't know. That's really hypothetical. But I'm sure that the new ministry, the government would say, listen, let's try to make a similar deal. If it's good for Pakistan, it's good for the people.
Right.
Pakistani Prime Minister.
Despite the sentiment.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sure.
No. I said so it's on a government level. It could look like a good plan, but there's of course the sentiment of the people. So it's going to be a process. I don't see it happening overnight, but it definitely could be something that should not be excluded.
Pakistani Prime Minister has said that United States of America and one of the friendly countries of Pakistan are trying to pressurize Pakistan to recognize the state of Israel. Many political analysts believe that this friendly country is Saudi Arabia. Why do you think so that Saudi Arabia is trying to pressurize any other Muslim power, any other Muslim country to recognize the state of Israel? What's in it for the MBS and Saudi Arabia?
Well, if you look at let's say at the sentiment of the people, you can say, look, it's not only us, great Muslim nation, they are also doing it. So it's a joint effort. So I think that, talking about Trump, getting back to Trump, you like the guy or not, what he did, he set it changed something in the attitude of nations. It's the way he dealt with it. I don't know how he did it, but he changed something in the attitude, and he made something happen that a lot of people thought was impossible. If you would have asked me this 1 year ago, I would tell you, no, of course not, man. This is not going to happen. But at this moment, I don't know. And also, let me remind you of the fact that it could still be possible that Trump remains the president. I mean, the mainstream media have chosen not to report on all the lawsuits that have been filed and the fraud that has been committed in the US election. If you look at them and if you follow them, I think the last word has not been said about the US election.
Georgia Federal Court and Pennsylvania Federal Court, both the courts have rejected Trump's plea.
I know, but we're going to the Supreme Court. And as we all know, there's a Republican majority over there. So a lot of things can still happen. I mean, a lot of things in the US court were dismissed and say you cannot even stand, you have no standing, you can't show your proof. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. But, you know, a lot of strange things have happened in the past year. So you never know. And then that would change a lot in the status quo, trust me.
My last question. White House senior advisor Kushner is traveling to Saudi Arabia in this coming week. What would be the likely outcome of the visit?
I don't know. It can mean a lot. You know, Kushner is known for his, let's say, diplomatic effort. So I'm sure that this will be on the table. I'm sure there will be, like, let's say, where do we stand now kind of talk. So if he's going to try to push the Saudis to sign everything in a week's time, I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm sure it's on the table, the relation with the Israelis. And, well, as I said before, the last word has not been said about this. I'm sure that a lot of things are going to happen in the coming weeks.
And it's only a matter of time now before the Saudis recognize the state of Israel, right?
Well, that is a little bit of a tricky question. I'm sure that is being discussed, and I will not be surprised if they would be the next country to sign a similar deal like the Emiratis and the Bahrainis did.
Mr. Blok, pleasure talking to me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Good luck with your program. Good luck. Thank you.